Hello and welcome to Lift the Cup Fantasy, or LTC Fantasy as some call it. Today we're going to look at Week 13's fantasy schedule and how to maximize on man games played. Some things to note: it's your normal week: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday are your light nights. Should note that it's 1 game weeks for Vegas, Minnesota, Edmonton, and Calgary, 2 game weeks for the Islanders, St. Louis, and Winnipeg. Slew of teams have 3 games, and then there's 5 teams with 4 games this week. They're Boston, Colorado, Seattle, Tampa Bay, and Vancouver. First, we're going to look at Colorado and Vancouver because their 4 games are spread over the week. And then we'll look at the other 3 because they play 3 games in the first 4 nights. So you'd want to pick them up a little bit earlier in the week. And then we'll finish off the episode looking at some teams that have a condensed schedule later in the week so that you can look at that to really maximize on your games played. So we'll get right down to it because there's a lot to cover here. Colorado, they do have 2 back-to-backs this week. Monday and Tuesday, they play back-to-back against Seattle and Nashville, and then they have a home-and-home with Arizona on Friday and Saturday. Since they do have 2 back-to-backs, I look at possibility, if you're weak in goaltending, to look at picking up Pavel Franco, because more than likely he is going to get 2 of the 4 starts this week with them being back-to-backs. And he is owned in only 13% of Yahoo leagues. Now, he's only had 1 game this year where he did give up 4, but I look at last year's stats where he was 21-7-4. He had a 2.41 GAA, 923 save percentage, and 1 shutout, and not hard to get wins when you're playing in Colorado. So, D-men, I would look at Devin Taves. Now, he is 86% owned. So there's a 1 in 10 to 2 in 10 chance. How he's even available in 15% of the leagues is beyond me. In 19 games played, he has 5 goals, 17 assists for 22 points. He's a plus 22, 6 power play points, 39 shots on goal, 18 hits, and 22 blocks. He does play on the first pairing and the second power play unit. Also playing on the second power play unit with him, but on the second pairing normally, is Samuel Gerard. He's 62% owned. 28 games played. He has 3 goals, 14 assists for 17 points, 3 power play points, 44 shots on goal, 23 hits, and 40 blocks. Now, the last D-man that I want to mention for them is Bowen Byram. He's only owned in 35% of the leagues, but young guy drafted 4th overall, and he's been putting up some points. He's only 16 games played, but he has 5 goals, 6 assists for 11 points in those 16 games. He's a plus 4. He got a power play point the other night. He normally doesn't play on the power play, but he is getting the odd shift on there. 32 shots on goal, 22 hits, and 14 blocks. I would also do your due diligence to look at Nasam Cadre, because I've seen he's only owned in 90% of the leagues, but it still gives you a 1 in 10 chance, and he's been absolutely phenomenal this year. So I definitely just check it out. It never hurts. His line mate, Andre Burakovsky, plays on the second line, second power play unit. He's listed as a left wing, right wing. So I do like having that versatility. And he's only owned in 67% of the league, so you got a 1 in 3 chance of picking him up. 28 games played. He has 12 goals, 12 assists for 24 points. He's plus 3, 7 power play points, 54 shots on goal, 21 hits, and 14 blocks. And look at the normal person that plays on that line, Valerie Nakushkan. Now, he was injured on January 1st. He was supposed to miss 7 to 10 days, so he might be back for the start of the week. But he has 18 games played, 10 goals, 6 assists, 16 points, plus 10, 1 power play point, 2 shorthanded points, so he plays on the penalty kill, 47 shots on goal, 25 hits, and 8 blocks. Now, if you're watching and Nakushkin isn't ready, I'd look at the one that's been filling in his spot, JT Compher, possibly take a flyer on him. Next, we move on to Vancouver. Now, all 4 of their games are on the road this week, and it's a tough schedule because they're in Florida, in Tampa Bay, and then finish off with a back-to-back in Carolina and in Washington. So they're in tough, but it doesn't hurt to look at possibly, depending on your needs, to get some man games played. Defenseman that I'd look at is Oliver Ekman-Larsson. His stats don't really justify him being owned in 47% of leagues, but it's something to look at since he does play on the first pairing and second power play unit. The only thing that really stands out is that he does have 83 shots on goal, but he only has 6 points on the year in 31 games. Another one to look at is Tyler Myers. He's only owned in 18% of the leagues. He does play on the first pairing. 34 games played. He has no goals, but he does have 10 assists, 8 plus 8, which is a plus because there's not a lot of plus players in Vancouver, especially the way they started. He does have 53 shots on goal, but if you're in a banger league, he does help you. He has 69 hits and 76 blocks. Going on to their forwards, one that I look at is Conor Garland. He's listed as left wing, right wing, so you do get that versatility. He's only owned in 63% of the leagues. He's listed as third liner because Boudreau's really been spreading out the scoring. He does play on the second power play. In 34 games played, he does have 10 goals, 13 assists for 23 points, plus 8. 2 power play points, 98 shots on goal, so he does put some rubber on the net, 22 hits and 9 blocks. Another forward I look at is Bo Horvat, listed only as a center, but owned in 73% of leagues. You do have a 1 in 4 chance at getting him. He does play on the second line, first power play unit. In 34 games played, he has 11 goals, 9 assists for 20 points, minus 1, 6 power play points. Almost identical shots as Garland, 97 shots on goal, 40 hits and 20 blocks. Another forward I look at is Brock Besser. He's listed as a right winger. He was placed in COVID protocol on December 29th, so he should be back for Monday. Owned in 81% of leagues, so there's a 2 in 10 chance. But he's had a slow start. He has 17 points in 20 games, but in his last 3 games that he has played since coming down with the COVID, in those last 3 games, he has 3 goals, 1 assist for 4 points, plus 2, no power play points, and 10 shots on goal, so he's averaging over 3 shots a game. Another one that's in COVID protocols, Elias Pedersen, since the 4th, so he might not be ready for Monday. He's owned in 90% of leagues, so he 1 in 10 chance. So do your due diligence, check it out, and you can't deny his talent out there. So before we get into the next 3 teams that play 4 games this week, they all start out with 3 games and 4 nights between Monday and Thursday. Want to remind you to hit that like, subscribe, and bell. Reason for subscribe, that way it'll at least save it in your subscription list, so if this video gets too long because there's a lot to cover, you can pull it up later on. The other 3 teams are Boston, Seattle, and Tampa Bay that fit those games in. Now, Seattle, they start out Monday in Colorado, then they have a back-to-back. Wednesday in Dallas, Thursday in St. Louis before they finish off the week home to LA. Players that I look at, Seattle's been off to a rough start, so their stats aren't the greatest, but when you play 3 and 4, could help you out. Jordan Eberle, right winger, 30% owned. He leads the team in scoring. 31 games played. He has 12 goals, 10 assists for 22 points. He has a minus 17. 6 power play points, 66 shots on goal, 24 hits, and 20 blocks. This one's probably, to me, the one to pick up is Yanny Gordy. He plays on the second line, second power play unit. He is listed as a center right wing, so a little bit of versatility. Only owned in 21% of leagues, but in 25 games played, he has 8 goals, 11 assists for 19 points. So on a point per game basis, he's leading the team. Minus 6, 3 power play points, 48 shots on goal, 35 hits, and 10 blocks. Also look at Jared McCann. He plays on the first line and first power play unit. Listed as a center left winger. Only owned in 23% of leagues. In 28 games played, 13 goals, 6 assists for 19 points. Is a minus 10. Again, 6 power play points, 71 shots on goal, 26 hits, and 10 blocks. Another one to look at is Kelly Yancrock. He is listed as left wing, right wing, and only owned in 1% of leagues. He was off to an absolutely horrible slow start. but he does play on the first line, first power play unit. And if you look at his last 7 games, he has 3 goals, 5 assists for 8 points. He has a +2 in there, 1 power play point, 9 shots on goal, 1 hit, and 1 block. And if you're looking for a flyer kind of pick, you can look at Giordano. His stats aren't great this year, but he does play on the first power play. Moving on to Boston, they play Monday in Washington, and Wednesday and Thursday they got a back-to-back where they're home to Montreal and Philly, and then they finish off the week home to Nashville. Uh, McAvoy should be back uh, Saturday, so it kind of makes Matt Gerslick kind of obsolete. So I wouldn't really look at him. If McAvoy misses Saturday, now maybe look at him because he has been filling in on the power play for him and that. Uh, Forwards to look at, I look at Craig Smith. He's been up on the top line the last little bit. He's listed as only a right winger. He's playing on the first line, second power play unit, and only owned in 9% of the leagues. I look at his last 4 games since he's been up in the top line. He has 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, even 13 shots on goal. So he's getting lots of shots in those 4 games and 2 blocks. Now, as much as he's getting paid, he gets a hammer thrown on him. But Taylor Hall, this is left winger, 64% owned. But looking at his last 4 games, he's started to pick it up a bit. He has 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points, so averaging a point per game. He is even, 1 power play point, 10 shots on goal, so averaging 2.5 shots a game, and 5 blocks. Other options out there for Boston, possibly look at Charlie Coyle, Eric Holla, or Nick Foligno, because they do get some power play time. You're not going to get Pasternak, Marchand, or Bergeron. So those are some other options there. Moving on to Tampa Bay, this is probably my favorite schedule of the bunch. Plus, Tampa Bay is a powerhouse. They start out Monday, Tuesday with a back-to-back in Jersey and in Buffalo. Then they're home to Vancouver on Thursday, and then they finish off the week home to Dallas. So a relatively easy schedule too, so you might be able to maximize there. D-man to look at is Mikhail Sergachev. He's owned in 76% of Yahoo leagues. He got a 1 in 4 chance. He's on the third pairing, but he does play on the second power play unit. In 13 games played, he's 2 goals, 13 assists for 15 points. So he's averaging almost half a point a game. -1, 4 power play points, 48 shots on goal, and 47 blocks. Forwards from them, I'd look at Andre Palat. Now, he's listed only as a left winger, and he is owned in 89% of leagues, so you got that 1 in 10 chance, but do your due diligence because he does play on the first line, so you can get some piggyback points there. And second power play unit, 36 games played, he's 13 goals, 15 assists for 28 points, +7, 5 power play points, 73 shots on goal, and 20 blocks. Also look at Alex Killorn. He does play on the second line, but he is on that first power play unit, which is really good in Tampa. He's listed as left wing, right wing, so you do get some versatility there, and owned in 68% of leagues, so you do have about a 1 in 3 chance. 36 games played, he has 11 goals, 20 assists for 31 points, so damn near a point a game, +1, 5 power play points, 66 shots on goal, and 10 blocks. Kind of find that funny how he's outscoring Palat, but he's owned in just over 20% less leagues. Another one I'd look at is Anthony Torelli. He's listed as a center right winger, only owned in 40% of leagues, but he does play on the line with Stamkos on that second line, and he is on the second power play unit. 31 games played, he has 9 goals, 11 assists for 20 points. He is a +4, 5 power play points, 63 shots on goal, and 31 blocks. If you're looking for another option on Tampa Bay, because all them guys are looking at your league, take a flyer on Corey Perry possibly, because he does get some power play time for you. Now, before we look at the remaining part of the teams, also those are the 4-game teams. Now, when we get into the next part of the schedule, there's 3 teams that play 3 games and 4 nights between Wednesday and Saturday. So this is where you could look at, you save some of your ads to maximize on some games played. And why I'm not just looking at off nights, I look at Monday. Washington plays Monday, then they're off all the way till Saturday. And Edmonton, they play Monday, but that's their only game of the week. So if you burn some picks early on them, possibly it hurts you because you got to save those picks and create some value out of it. So Arizona, Montreal, and Dallas play 3 of 4 between Wednesday and Saturday. Would looking at Montreal, they play back to back Wednesday and Thursday in Boston and in Chicago, and then Saturday they're at home to New Jersey. They're really injury riddled, so I would caution on Montreal, but wouldn't be fair not to mention that they do play 3 of 4 if you want to maximize, because you look at it, Hoffman, Toffoli, Weber, and Anderson, Dvorak are all on the IR. Allen, Petrie, and Hoffman are on the COVID list. Petrie and Hoffman should be back in time. Allen, not so sure, but check it out anyways. D-men, I do look at Samu Niku. He's only rostered in 1% of leagues, but he's only played in 12 games this year. He has 0 goals, 6 assists for 6 points, so he is averaging half a point per game, which is decent for a D-man. +5, 1 power play point, 11 shots on goal, and 15 blocks. The fact that he's plus in Montreal is quite amazing. Did mention Jeff Petrie being on the COVID list, and he's owned in 35% of leagues, which is surprising because he only has 2 assists in 27 games played. But with the production that he had last year, if you are desperate, possibly pick him up. Don't blame me if he doesn't do anything, because I did tell you he only has 2 assists in 27 games. But there's another D option for you. Forwards, I would look at Nick Suzuki possibly. He's listed as a center right winger, but he does play on the first line and first power play unit. He's owned in 71% of leagues, so you got a 3 in 10 chance. 34 games played, he has 7 goals, 12 assists for 19 points. Ugly plus minus at -15, 6 power play points, 79 shots on goal, and 22 blocks. I'd also look at Jonathan Drouin, plays on the first line, first power play unit, listed as a center left winger, and only owned in 7% of leagues. Better chance of getting him, and he does have a better point per game total than Suzuki, actually. 27 games played, he has 6 goals, 11 assists for 17 points. He has a -8, 3 power play points, 50 shots on goal, and 7 blocks. Mike Hoffman, I would look at him too, just because they're so injury riddled. If he does come back from COVID, he'd probably be up on the top line. Listed as left wing, right winger, and he's owned in 17% of leagues, so I would look at him possibly. Now, Arizona, kind of a little bit rough schedule here. They're home to Toronto on Wednesday. Then Friday and Saturday, they play a home and home with Colorado. So you want to talk about tough luck. But they do, similar to Vancouver, having a shitty schedule this week. But got to mention some players there. I look at Shane Gostisbehere. He's quietly had a really good season, and he's only owned in 38% of leagues. In 32 games played, he has 6 goals, 17 assists for 23 points. So he's averaging 2 points every 3 games. He is a -7, 6 power play points, 67 shots on goal, and 38 blocked shots. And as I was looking at their stat sheet, Janice Moser, now he's listed as 0% owned, and this will probably depend if Chychrun comes back. He's supposed to be close. So he's only played in 5 games this year. He's playing on the second pairing, second power play unit without Chychrun in the lineup, so that might change. But he does have 2 goals, 1 assist for 3 points. So he's 0.6 points per game, +2, 5 shots on goal, 2 blocks. There is really a risk taking him, but should mention it. Forward, Phil Kessel, the fittest man in hockey. He's listed as a right winger, 13% owned, but he's had recently he's been really good. He's 32 games played. He has 5 goals, 18 assists for 23 points. He is a -5. He does have 8 power play points, 72 shots on goal, and 8 blocks. But if you look at his last 4 games, he has 1 goal, 7 assists for 8 points. So he's averaging 2 points a game. Maybe it takes a while to get that big body moving. He's +3, 2 power play points, 13 shots on goal, no blocks. Clayton Keller's another one to bring up. He's listed as left wing, right winger, plays on the first line, first power play unit, only owned in 29% of leagues. Not a lot of ownership on Arizona players, obviously. 32 games played. He has 11 goals, 14 assists for 25 points. -6, 3 power play points, 90 shots on goal, and 21 blocks. But if you look at his last 5 games, he's been on a bit of a streak. He has 5 goals in those 5 games, so a goal per game, 3 assists, 8 points, +2, none on the power play, 28 shots on goal, and 5 blocks. If you're looking for a flyer to look at, possibly look at Nick Schmaltz or Lawson Krause. Moving on to Dallas, they're on Wednesday. They're home to Seattle. Then Friday and Saturday they got a back-to-back with Florida and Tampa Bay. So it's nice that they do play Seattle. Suck that it's a back-to-back against Florida and Tampa Bay. But some players to look at to maximize on games played again. I'd look at John Klingberg on the back end. He is owned in 70% of leagues, so you do have that 3 in 10 chance. And he is on a 5-game point streak. And in those 5 games, he has 1 goal, 6 assists for 7 points. He has a +2, 3 power play points, 9 shots on goal, and 7 blocks. I'd look at, now there is high ownership on their top line, but do your due diligence on any of them. Joel Pavelski, he's center right wing, 89% owned, so you got a 1 in 10 chance. Another 1 in 10 chance is Rupi Hintz, he's listed as center left winger, 91% owned. And Jason Robertson, he's probably my favorite one out of the bunch, listed as a left winger only, but he's 83% owned, so you got that 2 in 10 chance. So not a lot of chance of getting them, but check it out because they'll probably be your best fantasy value. If they are owned, some other players to look at Dallas. I look at Tyler Seguin. He's listed as center right winger. He is 72% owned, plays on the second line and second power play unit. In 30 games played, he's 9 goals, 4 assists for 13 points, -11, but he does have 4 power play points, 78 shots on goal, and 10 blocks. Another forward is Jamie Benn. Now, he is listed as a center left winger, 64% owned, 32nd line, second power play unit. 30 games played, 9 goals, 8 assists for 17 points. He is -3, 6 power play points, 71 shots on goal, and 19 blocks. Do note that he does have 4 points in his last 2 games, so he might get you some production there. Last one, Denis Gurianov. Now he's left winger, right winger. He's 12% owned. He's on the second line, second power play unit. In 29 games played, he has 5 goals, 8 assists for 13 points. He has a +1, 6 power play points, 60 shots on goal, and 15 blocks. Now, he does have 5 points in his last 2 games. See how him and Ben are kind of going. So 5 of his 13 points are in the last 2 games, so something to look at. If you need a flyer player, because most of these are gone in your leagues, look at Alex Radulov. He is playing on the third line, but he does play on that first power play unit with Pavelski and Robertson and that. So I would possibly take a flyer on him. If you have any comments that you'd like to see on content or something that you like to see improved on, please leave them in the comments below. Please remember to hit that like button. That helps with the algorithm so more people can see these videos. Also remember to subscribe and hit that bell so that you get recognized on future episodes, and hope you guys all do well in week 13. Should mention on Wednesday we'll be out with some waiver wire ads that'll let you go a little bit longer term ads than these shorter term ads that we talk about a lot of the time. And on Thursday we'll also be with our weekend ads episode on trying to maximize on some games played and some easier schedules. Hope you guys all do well, and we'll talk to you soon.